Right, welcome to another ScooterLab SLUK guide. This time it's to Oxford's Scoot XA5 disc lock. It's a new alarm disc lock and they claim it's going to fit the VESPA PX. It's only got a 5.5mm locking pin, which means it will go through the holes in pretty much any disc. So got myself a nice cup of tea because we're British, and we'll open this up and find out what we've got in the pack. I'm cheating here because I've opened it before. No, it's already going to open. So what you have is this lock, thin pin, quite cleverly carved there to get in slim spaces and get onto any disc. So I'll show you later on. We've tried this before and it does fit onto a VESPA PX disc. It also fits on VESPA PX disc with SIP tubeless rims, which are fatter than normal, so that fits pretty much everything. Also in the box we've got a nice fluoro hasp which connects onto there. You can hang on your brake lever and then that gives you a little reminder that, to take your disc lock off before you ride. Get an Allen key, I'll show you what that's for in a second. A USB recharging cable, so this doesn't use replaceable batteries, it's got a one rechargeable battery instead. And a set of reasonably high security keys, 3 of. The instructions, and they are so tiny without a magnifying glass I can't read them. Just say inside there's a waterproof cover on the things like this. There's my picture here as well, but it doesn't actually tell you how to use it. So we'll just set like to those instructions, shall we? So now we've got rid of the world's least helpful instructions, I'll show you how this works. Some of the other disc lock alarms that are competing have sensors to know when there's a disc in place. This isn't quite as clever as that. What this does is has an active setting and a safe setting that alternate, so you can put it away without it going off in your pocket or in your toolbox. So when you unlock it and lock it again, it will beep once and that means it's active. That beep there tells you that it's active. So now if I move it around, right, now when I do it, close it this time, it should beep twice, and when it beeps twice that means it's safe. And now I can move it around quite safely. So basically those two modes alternate. It might say something about that in the infinitesimally small instructions, but I've burned them now so we won't find out. Obviously it's not powered from the bike, which means that there must be a battery in it, which means that either the battery needs replacing or in the case of this one it needs recharging. So how does that work? Well, that's what you need the Allen key for, which is over here. So deep inside there, I don't know if you can see, there's a screw. And then the electric part comes out. So under here is the USB charging point, and they give you a nice long USB charge lead to fit inside it. And we'll stick it on this USB charging device, and hey presto, look, there's a little blue LED in there to show you that it's charging. Now they claim that this is a waterproof cover, so we can see if that's the case or not. Let's put that back properly, make sure it's in nice and tight, and what we'll do is we'll throw it in my tea. That's a reasonable test, I think, for British weather, British tea. Right, okay, so let's take that out. Find out if this is still going to work or not. Ugh. Tasty. Right. Hey, that means it's going to arm. If I give it a shake, it's going to go off. So the disc lock has passed our cup of tea test. Right, so this is the common problem with why you can't get normal disc locks onto. There's simply not enough room for the disc to turn, with this, especially with, this is a worst case scenario with sit rims. So if you want to try with the Oxford one, even with sit rims, there's enough room to get that in there and do it up, which is, like I say, worst case scenario. Right, okay, so the point of this having a 5.5mm hardened locking pin is that it has to fit through, on scooters, some very small holes in the discs. However, the sensible way to lock up a PX is not to use the disc lock down here, where it's got accessibility to all the thieves and their grinders and hammers, but to instead put the disc lock in between the fork leg and the shock, where it's difficult for anybody to access. It's also not so easy to align up with any of the holes, but doesn't mean it's not a good place to put it. Just needs a bit more fiddling, that's all. There we go. Right, so that there is no longer accessible easily with a grinder. There's other methods that they'll use to try and defeat these locks, but the chances are there's another scooter to steal, and if you put your disc lock there, you made it very tricky for them to access, and what you'll find is that they'll probably nick another bike instead of yours. Okay, so we attacked this lock, and in less than a minute we managed to defeat it without the use of power tools, but it was mounted somewhere that was easily accessible. The whole point of this lock is that it can be hidden away. So for Vespas, where you can hide the lock between the fork leg and the shock, you're getting a much better level of protection. Anybody trying to attack this is going to have their space restricted to use the tools that they'll be wanting to use, and the alarm will be going off all the time. So in that situation, I think it's not too bad a job. You've got no choice really. You've only got on the PX something with a small pin that will fit through these holes. So I'd recommend this over nothing all day long.